right. Maybe you said something. I don't see Rob on here, is he?
I don't see Rob Foster on here. I haven't had any contact with him.
We'll
Rick,
give it a minute or two.
Rick, did you talk to him or anything when you gets off? No.
And there's like kind of animate you crawl behind me either.
I couldn't hear you, Vicky. You cut out really bad.
Oh, my dog, my cat walk across the back of the couch, so who knows what you'll see.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
This is Gizmo.
Even did I put that underneath part?
Hey, Robert, do you want me to try to reach out to Rob and see if he was gonna join?
You can reach out to Rob, but I'm sure he knows we have a meeting and he's probably tied up somehow. But still reach out to him. We're going to go ahead and start. I mean, we can't wait too long. We can go ahead and text him and see if you get a response back. Sam, is Bree driving you?
I got Kobe driving.
Yeah.
That's all right, isn't it? Yeah, she's driving. I figured I might as well make her be my chauffeur.
Yep.
I get car sick really easy, so we'll see how well this goes.
I suggest closing your eyes before you lift your head up.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to have to go ahead and get started. Call the meeting to order. So roll call, please.
East Ward Alderman Rob Foster. East Ward Alderman Mark Bowers.
Here.
Mayor Robert Williams. West Ward Alderman Vicky Montgomery. West Ward Alderman Stacy Lee.
Here.
Please stand for a moment of silent prayer or reflection, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, under God, with liberty and justice for all. I think I switched around the statement there, but God knows what I mean.
Exactly. All the words were.
I don't have Jeremy Lofton sitting next to me to prompt me. I have the volume on mine is a little bit low, so if I can't quite hear it, I apologize. We have the minutes from May 14th. Any recommended changes or a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Okay. And then you also have expenditures and financial reports. Looking at the expenditures first, if there's any questions or a motion to accept those.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. You have the financial report in your packet, the fold out, which actually is looking pretty good. Am I correct there, Monica? But the overall percentage is actually higher than the expected percentages by this time. I believe it's the street department or vehicle sales tax was actually entered on May 1st. That is for April. If that had been entered in April, that'd be up around 31% or so, I think is a note that's on here. So
Yes.
as opposed to the 23.3%, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So the expenditures are actually overall for the general under the 33.33%, and revenue is over. So for now, that's actually a decent number.
Correct.
Are there any questions on the financial report? Okay. Here's Rob. The departmental reports, give you just a moment looking at those to see if you have any questions on those.
Looks like our sales tax did not decline through the pandemic thus far.
Right.
That's good.
I don't know though, Mark, I think the sales tax that we received, Monica, you can correct. I'm not sure if we're at a point where we really can tell that yet. Am I right?
That's correct. We are not. So the sales tax revenue from April would have been received from the state in March, would have been for February sales. I mean, it runs behind. So it'll be June and July when we can see if there's any significant decrease.
Okay.
In August, we'll start being able to see that.
Darn, I was optimistic.
Stay optimistic because the good thing, well, you know it's going to be impacted, right? But the one thing about Marshfield is that most of our business are the type of business that people kind of have to do. So we generally get hit a little bit less hard than other areas whenever it comes to those types of things. However, there's no way that COVID-19 and all the shutdowns isn't going to result in some impact. So. All right, so any questions on departmental reports? All right, then we're going to move on to unfinished business and let Michael give a report on COVID-19. And I believe there's a couple questions that you received also from Karen, from the ladies in the office, in the collection office, that we'll want to try to give a good answer to. So, go ahead, Michael.
Mark, you'll probably have to unmute him if you haven't.
There, did I get it?
Yep, you got it now.
Okay. So anyway, got a report out. It was a little bit later today, so hopefully everybody got it. I had to wait for the governor to speak at 3 o'clock before I could really complete this. So according to CDC, they reported 1,698,523 cases in the U.S., which 19,680 of those are new in the last 24 hours. There have been a total of 100,466 deaths thus far, of which 1,415 of those are new within the last 24 hours. Here in Missouri, reporting 12,673 cases, 707 deaths out of 170,864 persons that have been tested. In Missouri, 109 of the 114 counties are reporting cases as of now. World Health is saying that there's 5,596,550 cases worldwide, with 353,373 deaths in 216 countries. Currently, we've had 17 cases in Webster County out of 942 persons that have been tested. Right now, we have one of those 17 that is still ill. Everybody else has recovered. We have one that's pending results, and we have 9 that are currently being monitored. And very much, fortunately, we have had no deaths of Webster County residents thus far. I did update all the counties throughout the state there. As you can see, we're still holding at that 17. Counties around us have kind of held pretty solid too. Christian County has bumped up a little bit to 21. The Clede's come up to 3. Wright is at 11. And Douglas County, lost Douglas on my, or can I see Douglas? I don't think they had any, that was why. So this region is holding really solid, I guess is what I'm saying. Cases by age, the under 20 statewide, 499. The 20 to 29 group is 1,749. 30 to 39 is 1,765. The 40 to 49 age group is 1,887. 50 to 59 is 2,126. 60 to 69 kind of went down a little bit at 1,943. And then the 70 plus is 2,692. Still don't have any deaths in that under 20. 1 in the 20 to 29, 3 in the 30 to 39, 15, 40 to 49, 50 to 59 bracket, the climb up to 45, 60 to 69, 119, and then as we know, the 70 plus population is what gets hit the hardest, and there's 524 cases there. And that is a typo on the next. Cases by sex. Male was 5,726. Female should say 6,826 and not 56,000. So, and then unknown in that category still around 75. Under the assumptions, we're still recommending the face mask usage in public. Testing is still improving, as we talked about. 170,684 have been tested to date, which is a good number. Still looking at the fall. That's kind of getting talked about a little bit more now with concerns of the virus coming back in the fall, especially around flu season time. Could present for a pretty significant issue again. It's going to be prevalent here for a while, so I don't see social distancing changing anytime soon. Continued testing is really the focus right now. It's high importance as we move through the recovery to make sure that we stay on top of where cases are, identify them quickly, get them isolated quickly. We are it's being recommended that we focus more on the detection, so or PCR test, than the antibody testing right now. Antibody testing, according to Dr. Williams at the state, will probably become important in late summer, but right now he does not recommend that as being a priority. Task force, been looking at the situation here in Webster County, and again, the county surrounding us, and trying to evaluate our position as a county and as a city, obviously, and where we're positioned in the recovery phase. We feel that we're getting very close to being able to move into a next step of recovery. We're not quite there yet. Part of that was waiting to see what the governor did today. We did review the guidance and discuss the pros and cons of regarding opinion of reopening playgrounds, which I've attached at the end of this document. Important community information is, of course, to continue the social distancing, avoiding large gatherings when possible, avoid long-term care facilities, stay home if you're sick, especially if you have chronic illnesses, still using caution in those gas stations and truck stops along major routes. Something that kind of kicked out here lately is trying to get out to people not to delay necessary medical care. I mean, throughout this this event and this pandemic, people have chosen to stay at home rather than going to the hospital or going to a doctor, in some cases to their detriment, because they're in fear of getting the virus at the hospital or at a clinic, or because the hospitals weren't allowing family members in. People have used that as a benchmark whether to receive medical care, and we're really the medical community, and I agree that we really need to start focusing on getting people that have been ill, get them in, get them treated, and not delay on necessary medical care. COVID-19 symptoms, just a review: fever, cough, difficulty breathing, chills, repeated shaking with chills, headache, sore throat, loss of taste or smell, muscle pain are the most common. But please keep in mind, and we're finding it more and more often. It was Dr. Williams talked a little bit about today and the other day on the conference call. We're seeing a lot of asymptomatic patients that are being tested at private clinics coming back positive. So I think we have a large population, larger than probably that we realize, that are asymptomatic but that have the virus. Most of those will be your younger population. State action since last briefing. Governor Parsons today extended the current phase 1 order through June 15th to allow some of the areas of the state to improve before he's ready to move to the state's phase 2 in the Show Me Recovery Plan. And then the governor on the conference call on Tuesday was pretty clear that he wanted to recommend that CARES Act funding that were given to the counties be used to support testing, especially mass testing, and any way that we can support getting persons tested. That's what he would like to see that some of those funds prioritized for. I'm unaware of any county action since my last briefing. As far as my actions and actions of our office, my office, since the last briefing, things thankfully are starting to level out just a little bit, and that list has gotten smaller. We're still obviously doing the conference calls with Governor Parsons every week, task force meetings every week, daily briefings, we review those and interpret that data, keeping the countywide chiefs communicating on this, participating in meetings with local health organizations to keep on top of the testing sites, which we'll be discussing again tomorrow, actually. And then, of course, research and provide input on the reopening of playgrounds. Prevention measures have not changed. And then recommendations and considerations. I put that in here, Mayor. I don't know if you want me to read that whole lengthy paragraph there, or if everybody's got that in front of them. Whatever's your pleasure there, I will do.
Are you talking about on the playground equipment?
Yes.
Suffice to say that the recommendation of the task force is that we would maintain the current policy and not reopen the play structures at this time until at least step 2. Am I correct?
That's correct. And if it was decided otherwise, that we would need to try to have someone available to monitor that situation and disinfect on a regular basis if we were decided
Sure.
to do otherwise. But the overall recommendation would to hold off until we move further into recovery.
Okay. So the a couple things then. While we're on this topic, let's just bring it up. So one of the challenges that we have, and it potentially it just is what it is that when the city now has removed the swings, and any equipment that can be removed has been removed. Other equipment they have taped off now, I don't know how many times, and the tape gets removed, and the people go and they use them, especially over weekends and pretty much any time. Is the board comfortable with that being what it is, or are there other steps that you want the city to take?
I think that's really all we can do is to retape when someone rips it down. I don't know what else you could do.
I don't either.
Well, then you might want to stake somebody out here at Massey Park 24/7 because it's torn down pretty much as soon as it gets put up.
Yeah, and so on from the city staff side, I mean, we can check it daily, and we can keep going the way that we're going. Part of the problem we ran into there for just a little while, which I don't think it's a problem now, is that we basically bought everybody out in town, and so I think we've got a little bit more on hand now. I don't know if Mark's talked to Brandon here lately, but that's about the best that we can do is check it daily and see what we can do. I mean, it doesn't take all that long to tape it off, but it does require some time.
Yeah.
I don't know, obviously I'm not a big fan of signage, but if we drove a T-post, making it difficult for it to be used with a big sign that says the playground, this item is closed or something, it would be a whole lot more difficult for them to pull a T-post out of the ground than to rip out the tape. I don't know.
It would. The challenge that you run into is actually it's a very good problem, right? Is that through the grant that we just got done accomplishing and all the projects that we did, everything's got pour in place rubber
Right.
everywhere around it, and so there's really not a permanent way to put. We looked at that, and we could try to tie a trash barrel or something to the bottom of. But in reality, that's probably just going to do more damage to our playground structures because people will just be beating the
Well, and possibly you're actually creating a safety hazard by doing it.
Yeah.
So I don't know, 6 one way, half a dozen the other. When we put tape out there, the community clearly knows that those are not supposed to be used. There can be, I guess, if we wanted to have some larger signs made up at the entrances that state, that the equipment is not to be used. That's the only other thing I can really think of. I don't know how much more we can do.
Yeah, I don't mean to sound like a negative Nancy, but if they're not obeying the tape being around it, they're not going to care about a sign either. We would just be wasting our time and money.
Yeah, I mean, unless we're going, the only thing that really would enforce it would be having it manned. And we certainly don't have the ability to do that. So
Let me make sure I understand something. The parks are opened, but the playground equipment is off limits.
right.
Is that right? So I mean, I don't know if we decide, which we have, that it's not in the best public safety interest for us to have the equipment in use because of all the things we've discussed, and folks continue to violate. My question is, would it be warranted and do any good to say, look, if we can't control it, we will be forced to close the parks entirely, not just the equipment?
We can certainly do that, Rob. I mean, if that's
And I'm just saying, if that's an
I get
option,
what you're
then
saying. I mean, if we want to go to, if we're ready to do that, I mean, we can put that message put out there. We can give it a matter of a couple days and then make a quick decision on it. Closing the playground equipment, closing the parks in general, the only way that you actually enforce that is manpower. I mean, the parks are obviously more obvious than the playground equipment, but either way, it still takes somebody that's going to watch it and make sure people comply. At some level, we are, we're making a statement with the tape. What percentage of the community pays attention to that is better than the percentage that would be on there if we didn't have the tape there. So we're capturing something there. But certainly, again, if the board indicates that they want us to look at closing the parks, if we can't get compliance with the tape, then that is something we will do.
Mayor, if I might, I do feel, based on the conversation we had in the task force this week, that we do feel as a group that we are getting close to making that move. I don't know how the governor's decision today will affect that, the panel, but we feel that we're getting close to moving to another step in the recovery process, and that the benchmarks of sustained reduction over a 2-week period, and we are hitting many of those benchmarks. So I would hate to see we make a major act like that, and then a week later the task force recommends relaxing that. So,
Sure.
But as of tonight, we're not there.
Well, I don't know that we really, maybe I'm wrong, tell me if I am, but I don't know that we really have the appetite to go to the place of closing the parks. I mean, that activity is a good thing. The tape, at least it puts out there a message. People choose to violate it or not violate it. We do the best we can, and I guess we survive a couple more weeks and then we get behind us. If you have something on that, that's the kind of approach I'm going to take. So
my actual, I just wanted to get all the options and considerations out there for us to think about. My actual approach would be that at least, Sam made a point that, we're going through a lot of product, the material, the actual tape. I suspect that it doesn't matter if we use 250 feet of tape versus 50 feet of tape. So let's make sure we're not using 250 feet of tape. Let's put one run of tape across, because I've seen them for, I believe, good reason, right? I've seen some of the equipment that has a lot of tape wrapped around it to really make the point. And I think that was appropriate and good. But now that people, I mean, even that's not stopping them. At least let's not go to the same extent. The message is the same. The equipment's closed with a piece, with one run of tape versus wrapping everything up in tape. If I'm being understood, you know what I mean? But let's at least stop a hemorrhage of resources where we can, and make the same point. I think.
Yeah, well, that's true. Another thing, and I don't know, maybe it's too much to go through, but we're talking about options. So, but how difficult would it be to put up construction fencing, the orange construction fencing around the entire area? I mean, that's a little bit more prohibitive as far as people, going through and violating that. So,
We have 8-foot chain link at school with padlocks on the gates. I went to work today and there were kids on the playground.
so there you go.
So
Yeah, it would be quite a bit more work, and would be buying quite a bit more material probably to go around all of it at a much higher rate per unit. You know what I'm saying? Those rolls come in 100-foot rolls, and you'd have to go all the way around. There's nothing on the inside now because it's all concrete and rubber, and so it would be more difficult for sure. I'm not saying it can't be done, but it would be more difficult. But I'm open to.
It's just up to the board what level of appetite you have for it. I agree with Rob's statement. We can certainly try to make the point without mummifying all of the playground equipment, right? I mean, I don't know what more
I think
we
it makes
could
the same
really
statement,
do.
yeah.
I agree with Rob.
Okay.
It's,
I'll pass that along.
All right, so let's deal with the couple questions that Karen, I actually can't see you. Mark, can you pull down the report there? Not scroll it down, pull it off.
take it off.
Just stop sharing your screen. There you
There
go.
we go. Thank you. The Karen, is she on here somewhere? There she is. You want to just state those two questions again from Julian Mummy?
Yeah. One of the questions they had was, are we ready to lift the freeze on the late charges? And then the other question was, if we are and we're ready to start the collection process. I mean, they've been collecting payments, but then when we're ready to start the late charges again and we get into the collection process where we're going to start the disconnect and that kind of thing, how do we want to make payment arrangements?
I've got a question.
The first time it's really going to come up as an issue is going to be the 16th, right?
Well, the 16th starts the process with the 10%, and then we have the first notice, that's the disconnect notice, which goes out on the 20th, and then the 26th is when we actually disconnect. So,
And I understand, I believe it was in the notes that went out, we have about 20 customers that are in the 90 day.
yeah, we're not too bad as far as that's really. Those were the people that just kind of, once we went into this, they just quit paying. So.
Is this something that you guys want to do anything with right now, or just let it ride?
So if I may, I'll speak to my thoughts on it. I appreciate it being brought to our attention and a reminder we need to reconsider it. I'd rather see a full report of the impact on the city budget. What are all the numbers? So a report of what our leniency is doing in a complete way on the accounts, and then try to maybe take it up in one of the next two meetings.
Everybody in agreement with that?
Yeah.
Good. All right. Then we are going to move on. Thank you, Karen. To the pool update. Mark?
Yes.
I'm sorry, but while we're still on the COVID, because it's specific to this question, I've got a question on the summer ball season. Given the new extension of June 15 in this phase, how does that impact the ball season? Before we move to pool, how does that affect the ball season?
Well, if we're looking at the guidelines that have been put out there that we're going to keep in place through the 15th, it recommends social distancing of 6 feet in all circumstances, and that would make playing baseball or softball games nearly impossible. It's not a contact sport, but you still got people covering bases and running bases, and you've got the catcher and the batter, and you've got some close proximity when those things are going on. So this is my opinion, but of looking at what we've got in our ordinance that's in place and the recommendations from our health department, as well as the CDC, it can't happen until after we move out of those into something that's different than what we have in place now.
Okay, I mean, I wondered when I saw that report that we had earlier. That's one of the first things I wondered, and so then along with that, even if it had lessened to where we maybe could go forward, had you given thought about a couple things that if so great, if not, we could do in advance of any lessening of the restrictions, would be just as an example, right? Scenarios where we're back to playing ball, but we aren't, turning the kids loose as if COVID-19 had never happened and we're not still in the middle of a pandemic. So some considerations for us to think ahead before they come up from parents would be like shared equipment in soccer, the goalie shirts are shared. In baseball, catcher's equipment is shared. So what would be something that is clearly well thought of by the city as policy on how we do that? And since it's not, since it's not pertinent right now because we can't even move forward with it, when we get there, it'd be a good idea to have things like that presented to us on how that's gonna come out and play.
Mr. Rob, I can speak to that a little bit. We've been thinking of that since square one. So that's something that's been planned into everything, regardless of what phase we're in. We're going to use CDC disinfection guidelines for those. I've got a couple of boxes of products sitting right here in my office that we've gotten that are on the EPA approved registered list for products that will kill the coronavirus that are approved to treat that. So we've got some of those measures, and it's part of our coaches training packets. We're going to train coaches on how to do it and when to do it and what to do it to, and as well as practice guidelines for distancing and things like that. We've got all of that built into our program this summer if we're able to have
Good deal. So you're answering all questions before they arise. You've done your best anyway to figure out and have drafts to kind of guide you in how to guide coaches and parents and players. Yeah, good. That's great.
And
Thanks.
To me, it's got to pass the Michael Taylor test too. He's the expert and kind of the authority on this. So making sure that but we've pulled from national sports associations. We've pulled from USSSA ball. We've pulled from the CDC. We've pulled from National Parks and Recreation, and we've looked at everything, and I think we've got pretty good plans in place.
Okay, and so to just kind of go back to the beginning, my takeaway is that we let's hope not September, until June 15. We're just leaving it open-ended. We're not making a call to cancel. We're just seeing where we are in June 15 about whether or not what a continuation of sports programming is going to be. Is that fair?
That's my thought. And
Yeah.
I've just known since 3 p.m. today. Haven't had a chance to talk to the park board or the park committee rather about that. But we have a meeting on Tuesday. And again, I would yield to Michael on those things too. But that's my understanding and that's my intent.
Does that pertain to practices and everything, not just the official games, but practices, everything, sort of under that same thought pattern, and not conducting those kind of gatherings, those kind of sporting gatherings, or not?
I would think so. But again, Michael, that's my interpretation of what we've got put forth right now. You might have a different opinion, but that's my opinion in a black and white of what we've got.
And I'm sorry, exactly what was it? I'm listening, but I'm not sure what the question
Do we have organized teams?
Yes and no. We've got enough people to have teams in certain leagues. We're still looking for a few more coaches and taking registrations, but I do believe that we have enough registrations to form a league at this point of some variation.
I think the question, Michael, was whether or not we would consider allowing practices to take place. But of course, that would require us to assign teams and move the program forward to that level. But so it's not just about the COVID-19. I mean, it's about the program itself and where does it end up at. I mean, but anyway, what is your input on that, Michael, as far as allowing that to take place?
So, and I agree with Mark there. I have not looked at the CDC guidelines on that specific topic. I have been involved in some discussions in regards to opening pools and what you're hearing, of course, out of the Missouri DHSS is it's a local decision whether to go ahead and do that based on the manpower and whether you can maintain the social distancing and enforce that. When I think about baseball, I guess, for example, I think maybe that's what we're talking about here, is, can we social distance in that? And obviously, if you're going to run up and tag somebody, then there's going to be some level of contact there now. But keeping in mind that when we talk about contact with the person that potentially has it, it's something of some period of time. And I think I saw the definition of 10 or 15 seconds or more. So, whether or not that you can keep kids of that age from 6 feet apart, other than, the incidental touches or tags, if we could, I wouldn't have any major issue with it. But if, you certainly couldn't have a team huddle or anything like that, you would have to practice the best possible social distancing that you could in order to make it safe and effective. Did that answer your question or just muddy it more?
Are you speaking to me now? Because my question was really, even though we're not going to organize ball, there are ball fields that could be practiced on. And I didn't know, and are there a lot of guys that want to practice and maybe with certain, you can distance more when you're practicing than when you're in a live game. You can just not do some of the activities that require the tags. You can do things that don't require, that close contact to work on fundamentals, but still do it as a team. And I just wondered, as a city, if we decided where we stand on that, because we have several fields that could be used for practice. And I'm not necessarily advocating either way. I'm just wanting to know, I've got a team. I'm trying to figure out, do we start practicing? Are we allowed to start practicing? I don't want to break any rules. And at the same time, if it's okay, I'd love to get these youngsters going, but that's the direction I'm needing. Make it personal to me. Can I go out with a few kids at a time from a team and practice and not be even bending the rules, much less breaking them?
My opinion would be is if you can maintain social distancing in doing so, I don't see why not.
And as a city, what would we think? Same thing, just
Well, currently the order has to do only with the social distancing. So if it's not about the organized program, then as long as social distance guidelines are being met, we really have nothing to, to do with it. If I guess the bigger question for us as a city is, are we going to try to organize so that those teams can practice as teams? We're not prepared to do that the way I understand it.
so if a field's open, since there's no organized schedule, if a field's open, take the field and practice and with proper
The park is
distancing
open.
guidelines and go from there, right?
Yep.
Does that sound right? Okay.
There are
On their
people
own
doing that.
initiative. Yes.
They're doing that already now.
Thanks, guys.
Okay. Anything else on COVID-19? Then let's go to pool update, please.
Okay. The Tnemic, independent Tnemic, which is the brand of paint that they use to paint the bottom of the pool, contractor came out to the pool and assessed the areas where the paint is failing. And that Tnemic representative gave his recommendation. He took paint samples and said it would be 7 to 10 days before those came in. And that was a little over a week ago now, so I expect that results to come in at any time, but he did not hesitate to make his recommendation on paint repairs. And so he sent that out to Jason Hill of Westport Pools, who has forwarded that to his paint subcontractor, who will be responsible for making those repairs at our facility. They're preparing to do that. Westport Construction has been out there this week doing some repair to some caulking that has failed along with the paint, and they're doing that prep work and getting that ready to go in anticipation to the painter coming out to the pool. I spoke to Jason Hill yesterday, who said that the painter was planning on coming out when the weather cleared up and couldn't get out there this week because of the rain, of course, which may be what got us into part of this situation in the first place, but that things were looking good for the beginning of next week. So I asked him to nail down a timeline for me to share and get back with me today. And I have not heard from him and have not been able to get a hold of him today. So I don't know if he's got a timeline nailed down for that or not. I did ask him about how long it would take once the painter got started. And he said, well, they've got several steps to do. It should take a few days. He said, or they may need to space that out with, 3 half days or something like that. But it seemed to me like the paint repair could be done sometime in the 2 or 3 day range, depending on weather. At the point where the paint is completely finished, there needs to be a cure time of 7 days before that pool can be submerged with water. So that's where we're at regarding the paint at this point. The play structure, the vortex play structure, all the parts and pieces of that, along with the contracted assembler from Vortex, should be here next week to put that together. And he said that would take him 1 week to finish that project.
Mark, I have a quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
Have we power washed the whole pool to make sure that we've found every failed paint spot?
Yes, ma'am. Had a paint a power washer come in and power wash that pool over the weekend, and they had a limiter on their machine, and they stayed within the recommended PSI according to the independent paint tester. They hit every square inch of the pool, looking to expose any weak areas and peel up any paint that would come up. And that did not yield too many additional spaces where the paint was failing, but it did pull up some of the paint in the areas that are already failing. So that has been completed, and I feel confident that the paint that's exposed right now, 3,400 PSI wouldn't pull it up in any of the other spots. And I told him, I said, don't worry about it, go for it. That's what we're trying to do, is expose the paint. So he went through with the intention of exposing any weak areas that he could find.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, any questions for Mark? All right, thank you, Mark. And move on to item number 3 then, Bronco Enterprises, change order number 2 for the bypass elimination project to provide power for the magnetic flow meter from the Headworks electrical room. And we have CMT. Andy, I understand you are, you've changed hats.
That is correct, Mr. Mayor. It's good to see you and all of you again. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Okay. Yes, I'm Andy Miller. I'm the Construction Services Manager for Crawford Murphy and Tilley's Springfield office. And in the room with me here, over 6 feet away behind me, is Jason Clark. He's the Water Resources Manager for our office. And we're here tonight to present to you and request approval for change order number 2, which the mayor has described. The amount of the change order is $4,897. This is an item that there's really no choice. It has to be included in order to provide power for the magnetic flow meter. And so in a case like this, where it's an item that was left off of the plans and was brought to our attention by the contractor, in order to give best value and service to the city in this case, what we do is our due diligence in researching that cost proposal from the contractor to make sure that, had this item been included in the plans and competitively bid on the overall project with everything else, that this is not costing any more than within reason than it would have originally. And we have done that. Our electrical engineer has gone through this proposal, finds that it is in line with the cost we would expect to see for this item. So we would request your approval in moving forward.
Good. Hey, Sam, was the board can approve the change order number 2, right, without any additional resolution or ordinance?
Yes, yeah, it's just adding an additional amount to that contract, to the original contract with Branco.
All right.
Yeah. So just a little bit of history here and what's happening. So with the pool, we set the precedent that all change orders would come to the board up front. Well, obviously with all these projects kicking off, Andy and I had a conversation, and
Is Sam frozen for everybody else?
Yes.
Wonder if Sam knows he's frozen. Okay. Well, clearly we have the change order before us that needs to be done. Andy's telling us that. Are there any questions from the board?
No.
All right. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Who was? Oh,
Got a motion and a second. Another opportunity for discussion. All in favor?
Bye.
Aye.
Okay. And then, thank you very much, Andy. Is he still here? Yeah, thank you very much, Andy. Appreciate it. I think that's the only thing you're actually dealing with tonight, correct?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
And unless you have any questions for us, I think we'll exit.
All right, thank you. Next topic is the amending of the accessory building ordinance. We've already been talking about that. I'm going to read the ordinance and then we'll just go from there.
Wait a minute, Robert. There was an amended, the ordinance was, or I mean, the agenda was amended to add the Route 66, or I'm sorry, the CC intersection improvements.
All right. I don't have the amended version in front of me, but I'm trying to pull it up here.
Okay. It's the Route CC intersection improvements roundabout project that Mel is going to talk about.
Okay, let's just go ahead to it. Got to get Mel on here first, though. Mark, is Mel out there?
Can you guys hear me?
I think we can hear you, Mel, if that's you talking. We just can't see you.
Okay, well, here we go. All right. Yeah, so hey, I appreciate you adding me to the agenda. There's been some issues that I wanted to bring you guys up to date on, and so I can just hit to the point, or if you want, I have a quick slide presentation. I can kind of give you an update on the project. It's however you want me to do it. I probably 5 minutes of presentation if you're interested.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you got a 5-minute presentation, let's do it.
Okay, let me share my screen with you. Okay, so can you see that?
Yes.
So just real quick, as go over some highlights on it. So the contractor, as a reminder, is APAC, and we bid this project in September of last year. They gave a notice, they being MoDOT, gave a notice to proceed to the contractor in early November. They waited to break ground on this project until May 1st, just earlier this month. The contract completion date is December of this year, December 1st. Their current schedule is to complete it on October 1st, although they don't have to. That's the contractor's schedule right now. Some work that they've already done is they're just starting. They've set up some traffic control, some erosion control, done some clearing and grubbing. They built a temporary access between Banning. I think it's for the Jason Jones property. As far as contractual amounts, the current contract amount is $1.44 million. There's a pending water line change order for a deduct of $145,000, and we've discussed this at length in the past. And that water line bid price was real high, and MoDOT asked you guys to consider taking that out, and you guys agreed to do that. And so that change order is pending. Means you guys have agreed to it, but all the paperwork hasn't went through, so that will happen. And when that happens, that reduces the contract amount by about 10%, and half of that is yours. So that will reduce, your cost on that by just under 73 grand. Really what I want to talk to you about, and I'll show you some pictures here in a minute, but what I want to talk to you about is another pending subgrade, another pending change order that came up last week, I believe. And it is regarding some additional subgrade stabilization. And we had some subgrade stabilization in our project, but essentially this is the same issue we've discussed on, seems like every project anymore. if you get water and the clays in Marshfield together, it's not a good situation. And since they've waited to spring and it's been raining like crazy, it's causing additional subgrade stabilization to take place. And so last week they were trying to stabilize some subgrade with shot rock. It was so wet that even the shot rock wasn't really stabilizing it. It was it was still pumping, even though they had quite a bit of shot rock down. So a plan was come up with to add some additional shot rock and to put in what they call a geotextile, which is basically a plastic grid that helps that shot rock kind of interlock and help stabilize it. And so working with MoDOT and the contractor, a plan was come up to basically to stabilize that, I would say the roundabout, the formal roundabout, the round part that you'll drive around and some of the approaches. And the estimate on that right now is about $35,000. So that's about a 2.4% increase. And of that, half of that would be the responsibility of the city, which is a little over 17 grand. Now the way this contract is set up, MoDOT basically has the authority and the right to, dictate that work and approve that work. And there really is there is nothing for you guys to approve. But I wanted you guys to be aware of it as soon as possible. So as soon as I knew, I called Sam and I said, hey, we need to get in front of the city alderman and mayor and make sure that they know what's going on and, explain what's going on to them. But so this change order has not been through the approval process, but it is moving in that direction. So all that being said, when that's done, we'd be at 92% of the original contract amount, but a lot of that's due to that water line that we took out that we discussed. I'll show you a couple pictures of construction. And I think you guys know, you've seen all the rain that we're dealing with, and that's what's causing it. But and then I also go back to when we last presented on this, and we kind of gave you the presentation on how the bids come in and that type of thing. We discussed at that point, I actually have this presentation it includes that. Let me find it here real quick. I recommended at that time the reality that something like this might happen. This is a slide I presented back then. And I was recommending that you at least carry a 6% contingency, which would be about $45,000 because of things like this, additional subgrade stabilization or unknown things that we might find underground, utilities or environmental conditions. So I hate that I'm presenting this to you. I would rather that we didn't. I think if we were building this project in the summer, this wouldn't have happened, and that's kind of that's why you're not doing the subgrade stabilization and the repair work on Prairie Lane right now. And that's why we've decided that we're not going to do the square project until, late summer, because we don't want to get into the same situation on those projects if we can help it. But unfortunately on this project, they had a big window to construct this, and they chose to build it right now, and the contract allows them to do that. And so it's resulting in this additional subgrade stabilization. So that was my presentation. I'll be glad to answer any questions you have on it.
Anybody have any questions for Mel? Appreciate the presentation and getting it to the board as soon as possible. And the continuation of that. Anytime that there's anything that changes about the project, especially if it's going to change our cost, approaching it that way is always appreciated. So.
Definitely. And, as this project progresses, I'm willing to give you updates anytime you want. So whether that's, you know, every time you have a meeting or every month or whatever you want, I'd be glad to give you guys updates. Just let me know. So.
Well, you might plan on something every month, or at least let's tentatively say that, right? So that the project's going to move here pretty quick.
Right.
So a couple more updates wouldn't be a bad thing.
Yeah, I'd be glad to do it.
Thank you very much. And then I don't know if you've got anything else on the list here, Mel, or not.
I don't think I do.
All right. Well, then thank you very much for being here and joining our meeting.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate you guys.
Hey, Robert. Now that have I got you?
No, you're frozen.
Am I still frozen? Hey, what I was getting ready to, what I was trying to say, and I think that Andy may jump back on here. A question that he had brought up with in regards to, you know, we have all these moving parts and all these projects going on, is how do we, you know, we set the precedent with the first with the pool on the change orders by bringing all those to the board, and then we kind of got into some of these where there were some that were time sensitive, and so we kind of set that precedent. We also, the board approved, you know, 2 of 4 people. You know, I think it was myself and you and John, and I want to say maybe it was Rob at the time. There's some of that this one here could wait. This change order that you guys approved tonight can wait just a little bit, or it could. There's going to be some that may not be able to. So Andy, and that's why he's back on here. Do we want to take a similar approach? Do we want all of those change orders to come back to the board? How do we want to do that to keep everything moving? Is there a threshold that we want to do? I mean, and I'm fine bringing them all back to the board if we need to have a special meeting, but there's some of those that may not be able to wait a week or 2 in order to be able to get approved.
Right. Do we anticipate any of those before our next meeting?
I'm looking at Andy.
I mean, is it moving? Is it that critical that we need to?
It's hard to say right now if we have something before the next meeting that might, you know, cause a delay.
The only reason I'm asking is because the agenda item was for this particular change order. It wasn't dealing with a decision in general on change orders. But if it's critical, then we will definitely want the board to at least speak to it. So we have done that in the past. The board has approved for certain people to be able to kind of authorize to move a change order through quickly. I think it was one alderman and city administrator and myself. Does anybody, and especially if a change order is under $5,000, because understand that if it's over $5,000, then it has to come to the board, I believe. Am I correct, Sam?
Yeah, I think so. The last time, I think what we did on the last time was that we changed. So that's what staff's authorization is for. I want to say, without going back, I want to say that we set that threshold at, I want to say it was $10,000 or $15,000 if we had to make that change. Well, that we had to bring that right back to the board at the next available moment, you know, to give
Sure.
explanation and justification of why.
All right. So if would anybody have any opposition to taking a similar approach here, setting have an understanding that if there's an emergency change order that has to be taken care of, if it's no higher than, say, $10,000 at this point, that the mayor and the city with the cooperation of at least one alderman can approve that and move it forward as long as it comes back to the board at the very next meeting.
I'm fine with that.
I'm okay with that also.
Is
Okay.
10,000 enough?
I was just about to ask that same thing.
I mean, we're talking a multi-million-dollar projects. To me, 10,000 is a drop in the hat. 15. I'm comfortable with 15.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to say 15 then, and unless I hear objection from somebody, we're just going to have that understanding at this point. Is that, so Sam, it would be yourself, the mayor, and at least one alderman.
Okay. No, I think
Okay?
I think that's appropriate, and I think that anything past that dollar amount, I think we're probably talking about doing a special Zoom meeting anyway, right? I mean, it's not if it goes above and beyond that, I think I would want you guys to vote on that anyway. So I think we're good with that.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you, Andy. Again, appreciate it. We're going to move on now to amending the accessory building. I think that Scott is on here somewhere too.
Hey, Robert.
Yes, I'm here.
Unless you have any other questions for me, I think Scott's got the meeting from here on out. I think I'm going to jump off here. So,
all right.
I've got my phone with me if you need something.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right. So Scott, I believe the board has was sent out the memo on the amendment, the amended changes. So
that went out. Yep.
Yeah, I'm going to start just by reading the bill, and then see where we go from there on this. So we've already been talking about this. So bill number 2020-10, an ordinance amending section 400.080 of the Marshfield City Code, being a section defining terms used in the zoning code to define the terms accessory buildings, permanent, portable, temporary, portable building, temporary building, and accessory use.
I move to approve that. I didn't see anything wrong with that.
Okay. Have a motion.
Is this simply on the size?
Yeah, so this section deals with just definitions.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right, motion and second, discussion, additional discussion, understanding that we have a series of amendments here that are part of this. So.
Yeah, I didn't see who was second.
Vicki?
I
Okay.
thought that was Vicki, or.
Sorry.
That's okay, Karen.
All right, so no other questions and roll call?
Okay, I'm sorry. Foster? Bowers?
Yes.
Montgomery?
Yes.
Lee?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so second reading, bill number 2020-10, an ordinance amending section 400.080 of the Marshfield City Code, being a section defining terms used in the zoning code to define the terms accessory buildings, permanent, portable, and temporary, portable building, temporary building, and accessory use.
Move to approve.
Okay, got a motion and a second there. Roll call, please.
Foster?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Montgomery?
Yes.
Lee?
Yes.
All right. Bill number 2020-11, amending chapter 405 of the Marshfield City Code, being an article pertaining to zoning districts by amending section 405.040 residential density requirements.
Okay, so this section just cleans up the what I call bulk regulations. And there's some confusion because this section addresses accessory uses. And so we moved it all into another section, which we'll address shortly. So it's mostly, this section is mostly cleanup language. I believe it also addresses lot coverage.
If you're still looking at it, let me know. Just show me your hand and I'll. Otherwise, I need a motion or we'll move on. Okay, what does it do here, Scott, by not approving this?
Well, right now, this section is a little confusing because it makes references to accessory uses, and then it never directs the reader to the section that we'll address here shortly in subsection 410. So again, this section is straightforward. It's mostly cleanup language. And there's some conflicting information that we want to clean up. Really, the controversial part, the part that that I think the Board of Aldermen got hung up on a couple of months ago was the next section of the bill that we'll talk about. And that deals with the way the building needs to look and the lot coverage based on the size of the overall lot. So we'll talk about that in a moment. But this part is mostly cleanup language.
Okay.
Moving everything that's probably not appropriate in this section and moving it to a later section.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve bill number 2020-11?
Move to approve.
All right, got a motion. Is there a second? Got a motion and a second. Discussion. Roll call.
Foster,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Montgomery, Lee,
Yes.
Okay. Bill number 2020-11, amending chapter 405 of the Marshall City Code, being an article pertaining to zoning districts by amending section 405.040 residential density requirements. Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve. That was the second reading, right? Okay.
That was second reading. That's a motion and a second. Roll call.
Foster,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Montgomery,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Okay, Scott, I'll let you talk about this next one.
Okay, so right now the accessory building code, to put it bluntly, is a mess. It's unclear whether it applies to residential uses only, whether it applies to commercial uses. And in addition, Rick and I have increasingly found that the cap on the size of accessory structures of 576 square feet is not meeting the needs of residential uses. And so we wanted to take a close look at this, kind of zooming from the, to a 30,000 foot level. As you may know from our work on the growth plan, Marshfield has a considerable number of properties that are rented, and we'd like to make an effort in the coming years to try to have more home ownership. And while there's not a thing you can do about homes that have, you know, one bathroom that serve the whole family, or maybe don't have enough bedrooms, whatever, one thing the council can do to help is to allow for accessory structures to meet contemporary needs, whether that's a 2-car garage, additional storage area, a she shed, or a man cave in the backyard. These are things that people who want to own a home are weighing considerably. And this is a way that people can, you know, take a small step in order to help families, you know, store their boats, or store their cars, and maybe have a workshop and some storage for the Christmas decorations. So that's what we're attempting to do here. It is important to try to strike balance in terms of not making them too big, but we want to make them, you know, just right. Now, if somebody wants to come forward and ask for something, you know, quite large, the way the ordinance is currently written is that they would have come to the Board of Aldermen for permission for that. Right now, that is 1,200 square feet. That's a good size structure, as you maybe saw in that memo that I sent out with the packet yesterday. You know, again, we don't want to make them too big, because I think most of these are going to take place in neighborhoods that are, you know, pre-1980 built. So those are the city core, they're smaller lots. And people have gotten used to the way those neighborhoods look. There's a character to them. And when you start putting in large storage buildings, that changes, you know, how a neighbor, you know, sees next door. So it is a careful balance. I know you guys had a lot of discussion about, you know, the best way that these need to look, and the size. And we've kind of, there's going to be a lot of opinions. I completely understand. So we want to, I think part of what we're trying to do with the latest version of this is to try to find a balance that everybody's happy with. And I'll be happy to try to answer any questions.
I have one for you, just real quick. And it deals with a structure that might be outside of the size limitation. So if we're dealing with a pavilion, are we classifying that the same? It's a accessory building, correct? And so I'll use my church as an example, because I know that we are planning to try to build a what would be an 1,800 square foot, in all likelihood, maybe a little bit larger pavilion, which would exceed the 1,200 square foot limit or cap here. What then would be the process to get that approved, understanding that we have a lot more property than would even be needed to be able to do that?
Sure. Yeah. So, you know, obviously in the residential areas, that's the majority of your city, and churches are allowed in residential areas. So, and churches make up just a small percentage of the overall R1, R2, R3, R4 zoned areas. I mean, the example you just gave is a example where someone could come forward to council and ask for a larger building. And I think that would be completely appropriate. We didn't want to go through a conditional use or a variance process, because a variance would require a hardship, a demonstration of a hardship. And my personal opinion is that just won't work. You show that there's a hardship in this case. In regards to conditional use permit, I mean, we could do it that way, and have the Planning and Zoning Commission review those. But, you know, in my opinion is, applicant, if they want to go over 1,200 square feet or whatever, you know, the square footage maximum, what we decide tonight, the best place to decide that is council. You guys are going to know the needs of the churches or your residences, and rather than going through some sort of, a public notification process and having them wait, the best place to decide this is council. Like I said,
I want to make sure I'm clear on that, Scott, because the once it's approved, it's part of our zoning, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, and so it would go unless it is a variance request, it would automatically go to planning and zoning, would it not?
I mean, right now the way the code is written is that it specifically says, the latest version of it says anything over 1,200 square feet will go to council. So it wouldn't go to
Okay.
the plan commission.
So,
Yeah.
so the code then, okay, so it could come to the council and the council could simply approve a larger structure.
Yeah.
No variance necessary, just approval of the council.
Yeah. That's
okay.
the
That
way it's
answers my
written.
question.
Yep.
Are there any other questions then on this for Scott?
I move to approve.
I need to read the bill first. So I'll just go ahead and do that unless there's other questions. Okay, bill number 2020-12, amending chapter 405 of the Marshall City Code, being an article pertaining to zoning districts by amending section 405.080, business districts density requirements.
Move to approve.
Have a motion. Is there a second? And a second. Any additional discussion? Roll call.
Real quick, I want to make sure we're on the right one. Because I think 12 was just a real simple.
Well, 12 was the next one up, so.
Right, but I think he was going over number 13, wasn't he?
Yeah. I apologize. Yes. Yep.
Right. Explain 12 really quick. Scott, please.
Okay. So this one is, like Karen said, very simple. It's directing the reader of the ordinance to, if they want to know about accessory structures, they're directed to section 410.010. Because section 45080 initially discusses density requirements for accessory buildings. That's in your commercial districts. And we're taking, again, just like in the residential district, we're directing everybody to 410.010.
Okay.
So if you're wondering about an accessory use, it's all in one place now.
All right. Rob, is your motion still good then?
Oh, sure.
And the second?
Yes.
Okay. Roll call.
Foster,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Montgomery,
Yes.
Lee.
Yes.
Bill number 2020-12, amending chapter 405 of the Marshall City Code, being an article pertaining to zoning districts by amending section 405.080, business districts, density requirements.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. Roll call.
Foster,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Montgomery,
Yes.
Lee.
Yes.
All right, and this next one, Scott has already spoke on. Bill number 2020-13, amending chapter 410 of the Marshall City Code, being an article pertaining to supplementary zoning regulations by amending section 410.010, regulating accessory buildings and portable buildings.
Is this the one we stumbled over before, over the exteriors?
Yep.
Yep.
That's correct. Yes.
Did planning and zoning have a recommendation on their interpretation of that? Does it stand?
Well,
Yeah,
planning.
when the buildings were 576?
So the Plan Commission supported an increase in size. They didn't, really dive into building appearance. The building appearance standards that are in this version of the code are in the current version, the one that's on the books right now. So, and that's what I told them, back in February when we were going over this, is we didn't really change the building exterior requirements. So hopefully that answers your question.
Well, and when we talked about it in the board meeting, there were varying opinions on it. So we did not include a change to the appearance in the amendment.
So a 1,200 square foot building could be constructed in the exact same exterior manner as a 576 square foot building, correct?
Right. Yeah. Not regulating that in regards to size. In terms of size will not impact how it is to appear.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Whether you're a garden shed of 200 square feet, or whether you're Mayor Williams's 1,800 square foot pavilion, it needs to be. It's the exterior requirements are the same.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Roll call.
Foster,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Montgomery,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Bill number 2020-13, amending chapter 410 of the Marshall City Code, being an article pertaining to supplementary zoning regulations by amending section 410.010, regulating accessory buildings and portable buildings.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. Roll call.
Foster,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Montgomery,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
All right, the next item is to amend the self-storage ordinance. Do we need to have any discussion on that before reading the bill? Okay. Bill number 2020-25, an ordinance amending chapter 410 of the Marshall City Code, being an article pertaining to supplementary zoning regulations by amending section 410.091, regulating self-service storage facilities.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Roll call.
Foster,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Montgomery,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Bill number 2020-25, an ordinance amending chapter 410 of the Marshall City Code, being an article pertaining to supplementary zoning regulations by amending section 410.091, regulating self-service storage facilities.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call.
Foster,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Montgomery,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
All right. All right. Moving on to new business. We have the sport uniform bids here. Is Mark here somewhere?
I am here. Here I am. Yes, we've got these bids that came in, that did the seal bid process on this, as just kind of followed what had been done in years past, and had two people come into bid on this, and you can see here on the screen, there were two bids. The lower bid is Absolute Screen Printing here in town. I think this is 5 cents more per item than what they bid last year. I believe they got the bid last year as well. Would like to award the bid to Absolute Screen Printing for the remainder of 2020 to do any sports uniforms or shirts that we've got.
So I've got a question. If we don't have any seasons to use these up, these I suppose are useful in whenever we resume that, no matter what year. There's no shelf life on these, I suppose. Or, I mean, is this, by accepting this bid, does that put them in motion to produce these, or for you to be able to pull the trigger if the need arises to be that there is production of the shirts? Which is it?
That is for us to be able to pull the trigger if we need shirts.
Okay. Move to approve the recommended low bid.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mhm. And we have a report from Planning and Zoning. We have the final plat of South Elm Heights Phase 1. I believe that we have, what, 2 bills on this? The 2 different plats? I'm going to go ahead and, am I correct? Where's Scott at? So the first bill pertains to the first one, correct? Okay. So bill number 2020-26, an ordinance approving the final plat of South Elm Heights Phase 1, City of Marshfield, Webster County, Missouri.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second, discussion. Roll call.
Foster,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Montgomery,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Bill number 2020-26, an ordinance approving the final plat of South Elm Heights Phase 1, City of Marshfield, Webster County, Missouri.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. Roll call, please.
Foster,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Montgomery,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Bill number 2020-27, an ordinance approving the replat of the property to be known as Pyramid Addition, being a part of the West Addition, a subdivision in Marshfield, Missouri, and the west half of the Northeast Quarter, Section 9, Township 30 North, Range 18 West.
I have a question.
Yep.
Will our approval, this bill, would it be an approval of this matter with the conditions that were requested by Planning and Zoning?
It would be need to be stated. So let's talk about that, right?
Scott,
I
what were
don't
you
believe
saying?
you. Let me ask Scott. Has anything been done to include those conditions in this bill?
Okay, so this one is the replat of the pyramid site, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't think there were any conditions on that one. The conditions were items that conditions tonight was the car wash on Spur Drive and the ACGI Armstrong site plan. There weren't any conditions in regards to this plat.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Okay.
I'm sorry,
Move to approve.
Foster, okay.
All right. Was there a second?
Second.
Bowers,
All right. Got the second. Discussion. Roll call.
Foster,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Montgomery,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Bill number 2020-27, an ordinance approving the replat of property to be known as Pyramid Addition, being a part of the West Addition, a subdivision in Marshfield, Missouri, and the west half of the Northeast Quarter, Section 9, Township 30 North, Range 18 West.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call.
Foster,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Montgomery,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Okay, next item is the sign code revision. And the Planning and Zoning has now approved the sign code revision. It's not here in the form of a bill, however. Is it going to then be coming back if it's approved tonight?
Right. The intent tonight was to present this to the Board of Aldermen for informational purposes.
Yeah, so, okay, then that would, are you gonna talk about it then?
I certainly can. So I can give you an overview and then highlight a couple things. So Marshfield's sign plan is in need of an update. And we've worked really hard to, hold on just a moment. we've worked really hard to find issues that, in short, the sign advertising is always moving forward. So whether it's LED signage or new types of signage that you can only see that it's like a mesh screen that you put on the front of a building, or murals that may or may not have advertising, the sign code is always changing. There's always new ways to advertise. So what we tried to do is make sure that Marshfield had all the different types of advertising that are common today, that are addressed in the code. Another piece of this is that several years ago in 2016, the United States Supreme Court ruled that generally sign codes need to be content neutral in order to be consistent with the First Amendment. So you cannot regulate a sign, for example, if it's specific to church, or you can't say, real estate signs need to be regulated in a way that's different than any other types of signage. And so municipalities across the United States are working slowly but surely to bring that into conformance with the Supreme Court recommendation. And that's exactly what this code does. It's a content neutral sign code, and it regulates signage only with regard to placement on a building and size. It has nothing to do with the content of the signage. So again, as in most cases, this sign is a hybrid of a number of best practices throughout Missouri. And this one will hopefully keep Marshfield out of any legal hot water in regards to signage for many years to come. One other thing I might mention is Marshfield had for many years encouraged the use of pole signs, but interestingly seemed to discourage the use of monument signs. So even if a bank really wanted to put in a monument sign because they look more permanent, they have some brick elements, they look really nice, the code right now actually penalizes someone who wants to do a nice looking monument sign. Your maximum size is 25 square feet, which is very small for a sign. Whereas a pole sign could be quite a bit bigger. So that's another thing that we wanted to address. We wanted to try to encourage monument signs. Almost, actually we have an incentive in the sign code for the next several years. I believe we set it for four years through 2025, 5 years. It will expire in 2025, but to encourage monument signs or wall signs and to take down that pole sign, there's an element in here to encourage business owners. They'll get a little bit of a bonus on their surface area if they go to a monument sign or a wall sign and away from pole signs. So they can still definitely have their pole signs if they want to keep them, but to address the appearance of many of our commercial areas, Marshfield's commercial areas, we have this incentive. And we'll see how it works. Like I said, it does sunset in a couple years. So if it doesn't work, it'll just basically go away. But fingers crossed that it will be successful. But like I said, it's not a voting item for this evening. We wanted to get you to get familiar with it. It's quite a bit longer than your current code. But like I said, we think it addresses signage in a very complete manner for Marshfield for the years to come. And to the delight of Mr. Fletcher, it should be relatively easy to review and implement. So between the two of us, we should be able to knock these out quickly and without much controversy.
All right, so you have that for a future meeting that will be coming back for approval. If you have any input on it, feel free to email that, and that will go to Scott and can be reviewed prior to it coming back. So the growth plan review and adoption. The growth plan has been in the works for, I don't even know, 3 years or maybe 4 years at this point. It's been brought to the board at various points. It has been adopted now. It's been a product of multiple community meetings and vision casting and involvement by many different organizations, including the Board of Aldermen. And it has now come to a place where it has been adopted by Grow Marshfield as a community growth plan. It has been adopted as of Tuesday night by Planning and Zoning with some recommended updates to things like page numbers and appearance, I believe, relating things. It's been adopted as the official comprehensive plan for the city of Marshfield. The comprehensive plan, just information, the comprehensive plan is the totally within the purview of planning and zoning, but it is customary for that plan to come before the Board of Aldermen to also receive approval, and if for no other reason, just to show solidarity that we all agree that this is our plan moving forward. So the plan is on here tonight. I don't know if you're planning any type of a additional review on it, Scott, or if the board is ready and there's a motion to approve it, we can go that direction.
All I would say is Mr. Lavery is on the Zoom call as well. And if you'd like a brief presentation, we have, I think, 7 or 8 slides. And Dwayne can give you an overview of what we've accomplished. And I have some very 30,000-foot comments. And I think we can probably talk to you about it in 5 or 7 minutes.
Let's do it. So Dwayne.
Okay. Mark, you got the, there we go. All right. Yeah, well, Mayor, thank you very much. You've basically covered most of my comments, so I can be real quick. When you're talking about comprehensive plans, you're talking about all the different aspects that go into helping grow your community. And you can see from this slide all the different aspects, that the community and Grow Marshfield has been looking at. Go to the next slide. And then when you're focusing in on those different areas, you start out with community engagement and your leadership and where this all starts. And can't say enough since I've been here about how much, starting back with, the mayor and Rob and Chuck and all these folks who got this thing started. It's leading to one thing called, and that's business growth. And those take on a whole lot of different aspects to get done. To do your business growth, you got to have workforce development and talent attraction. And even when you get to that point, you still got to have a transportation system and a utility infrastructure to be able to support the new business growth. At the same time, you got to make sure you're taking care of your community, do your community development, make sure you're taking care of your housing, and a number of things that people have a place to live, and your events, your festivals. And then finally, the other area to make all this, you got to find the financial resources to make all this thing happen. Go ahead and next slide. You've already touched on all the things that we've done, the vision casting, the new aquatic center, the new interchange, the CC corridor. We're on our way with the downtown square improvements, the grow plant programs that are there, SCORE, microloans, the park master plan is out there, all the water and wastewater improvements that are going on right now. And it's all led and all come together, as the mayor said, for this community growth plan. So next slide, Scott.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Next slide.
So yeah, next slide here. Yep. There we go. So just wanted to give you a quick overview of the elements that are included in the growth plan. It includes these, I believe there's 12, count them real quick, 10 areas, 10 areas plus the implementation plan. They're all included here. Everything from spur drive, how we're going to work on that in the coming years in order to keep it competitive with the new route CC interchange. Same with downtown. We have some very specific goals for those. All growth plans, comprehensive plans address infrastructure, so whether that's utilities or transportation. We talked a little bit earlier in the meeting about housing and ways that we could try to bring down, for example, just as an example of many things that we're addressing in housing, is to bring down the overall rental rates. Like I said, Marshfield's rental rates for individual single family units are roughly 48%. And so encouraging home ownership in the community and making sure that housing looks nice and is viable for the next generation of Marshfieldians. Also, a key piece in here is the workforce development and economic development. Dwayne has touched on that already, and he will be a key point person on those. And then in regard to land use planning and to a certain extent community character, I hope to continue to help you guys on both of those. Top priority, as we talked about very briefly at the last Plan Commission meeting, is, for example, adopting an architectural code, perhaps, for the new Route 66, so that it is in keeping with what you hope to see along that corridor, and to make it walkable and encourage people to use the bikes along there. And then similarly, in regards to community character, you know, we just got done talking about the sign code. That's one of many elements that we hope to address in community character. So those are the functional areas of the growth plan. And if you'd like, we can go to the slide here. This slide shows just one element of economic development and land use. These areas labeled as A, B, and C are where Marshfield and the growth plan anticipates future growth, particularly of an industrial variety, industrial growth, manufacturing growth, logistics. Those all mean jobs, basically. And that's an important piece that's discussed at length in the growth plan, is how to make these three areas viable for growth in Marshfield over the next 10 years. One final piece of this is an implementation plan. And that's the final chapter. If you want to get a Cliff Notes version of the growth plan, you can jump to the implementation plan. It's the last chapter of the growth plan, and you can see all the goals and not only how they're accomplished, but also who's responsible and when they need to be done. This is a really unique element of the growth plan. And it basically starts, it starts right now. There's a set of goals that we'd like to see accomplished in this first year. And it's not just the city of Marshfield who's responsible for it, as Dwayne mentioned, and it was an important goal for the mayor, is to make sure that our community partners, Grow Marshfield, the school districts, Marshfield Development League, the Chamber of Commerce, we want to lock arms with those partners and help keep the momentum going on this, because if it was only the city who was responsible for it, it'd be just too much of a heavy lift. You need all team members pulling at the same time to accomplish this. So this is, like I said, in addition to the map we just saw, this implementation plan is unique and a powerful tool. And I look forward to working with you and appointed and elected officials in order to implement this over the years to come. We have an aggressive set of things that need to be accomplished, but with your help, we can get that done.
So the growth plan, I'm trying to get my screen back up the way it needs to be. Can you go ahead and pull that down, Mark? Thank you. Basically, it represents the partnership between multiple organizations. Grow Marshfield now has been restructured so that it includes participation on the board from the Community Foundation, from the schools, from the Chamber of Commerce, from the Marshfield Development League, and from the City of Marshfield. And each of those groups leading into that have been part of moving the growth plan forward and it becoming the officially adopted by Grow Marshfield. Tonight's our opportunity as a city to embrace that partnership with the growth plan by approving it, which will then give it approval by all of those organizations, as well as Grow Marshfield as a organization, planning and zoning, and now the Board of Aldermen. And so if you have questions, please ask. And whenever you're ready, if you're ready, I'd like to entertain a motion for approving this as the growth plan for the city of Marshfield.
I move to approve.
I'll second.
Motion and second. Any discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, then very good. And I got to tell you, we've worked long and hard as a team to get to the place to where we have this plan in place. So I just say, you know, congratulations to you guys, because be honest with you, the city, since I've served either as alderman or mayor, has not had a what would be deemed as a valid or substantive comprehensive plan that actually met the future goals of the city. And so this is a big deal, and you know, a big accomplishment for us. So there we go. We'll move on now, unless you have something else, Scott.
No, I just wanted to say, you know, thanks to you and Alderman Foster for attending all those meetings in regards to the growth plan, and also for, you know, he's not here, but John Benson was instrumental in this, and also Dwayne, who's contributed a lot to this, and especially coordinating this over since basically last summer when he arrived. So I think I just would say, you know, be very excited about this. Last time I worked on one of these growth plans or comprehensive plans, it passed almost as quietly as what's happening here tonight. And that's always our goal, is for there to be no controversy, for it to go across the line and everybody to be happy. So I'm real happy too. So welcome to stage 2 of implementing the growth plan.
Well, I think also there's of course, I won't be sitting here for this, but you know, COVID-19 has put us in circumstances where we really are doing everything without too much ceremony. But there is a need for there to be a public rollout of this plan in the future, and so I look forward to seeing that. So, but thank you, and thank you, Scott and Dwayne, for all of your work on getting this done. So.
Very welcome. Like I said, I'm looking forward to the next step.
All right, future agenda items.
We need to reschedule the special meeting that we had to postpone because the election got postponed.
I'm not drawing back on it, Stacy. I'm sorry.
We had scheduled a special meeting, I want to say April 30th, because the election should have been over.
Okay.
We need to get that back rolling again.
Okay.
Just so we don't forget it.
Yep. Do you have do you want to do it before the next Board of Aldermen meeting, or?
Set it tonight, set it then, whatever works.
Okay, you just want me to have staff get with you guys and set a date up that works for everybody?
That would be great.
Okay. All right, we will do that unless somebody has a particular date that they want to set tonight. So Karen, can you please coordinate the special business meeting with the Board of Aldermen? Okay.
A work session?
Yes, it was a work session.
Okay.
All right. Any other future agenda items? Nope. Then is there a motion to adjourn?
No move.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good night. Thank
Thanks.
you. Paul, I think you're out there. And Mark, thanks for helping
I am. I
coordinate.
shouldn't say anything, but it was a good meeting.
Well, it's over at 8:30, so it is a good meeting.
There you go.
All right. All right, guys. Have a good night.